just for a little bit. Welcome to this meeting with Council. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Before I go any further, I'd just like to acknowledge that we have 6 councillors in the room and Councillor Horn is appearing by Zoom tonight. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of these lands. The people of the rivers and the hills have walked these lands for thousands of years as well as today, and we pay respect to the elders of the past and present. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the Council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Do we have any apologies and leaves of absence? CEO, we have Director of Infrastructure Services, Ian Ellett, is an apology tonight.
Correct. We've got Nathan Mullane, who's sitting in Ian's chair for tonight.
As the Manager of Capital Works and Waste.
Correct.
No further apologies or leaves of absence? Are there any declarations of conflict of interest tonight with the agenda? None? We will now go to open forum. So the first set of questions that we have tonight is from Dean Hurlston. Do we have Dean present in the gallery? No, we don't. So as part of our rules for open forum, there must be the person who asked the question or a representative in the gallery. As that's not the case, the questions have alluded to the fact that they would also appreciate a written response. So can we ask that that will occur, CEO? So I'll move to the second set of questions, which is from Robin McLeish, and I can confirm that Robin is in the gallery. I'll ask your questions. Council's 2022-2023 annual report states that the auditors used by Council, the Audit and Risk Committee, the internal auditors and the Victorian Auditor General cost us in excess of $80,000 last year. The question, did any of these auditors express concern regarding the cost shifting between general rates and special charges when community responses to the draft budget had made Council aware of the problem for the last 3 years? CEO.
Through you, Mayor Price, the short answer is no. The auditors did not express any concern as described in that question.
The second question, scaling factors have been an ongoing problem for the Council. The recent annual report is no exception. The question, where is the note to the accounts that explains why a councillor was paid $350,000 to entertain our senior citizens? CEO.
Through you, Mayor Price, I think the preamble probably alluded to the problem that there was a scaling problem. No doubt the annual report does disclose any related party transactions that occur between councillors and staff at arm's length. Transaction one did occur. The popular band known as the Reclining Rockers did perform senior sits, and by no means are they Taylor Swift. They did not get the amounts of $350,000. In fact, the amount was $350, which was disclosed in the annual report. And I think the question probably was making the point that there were scaling errors, and that is in fact what's happened. So $350 was the amount, not $350,000, and that's a fairly modest amount for performance such as that. It's, and again, done at arm's length transaction and disclosed in the annual report.
The third question, government grants for the Murray to Mountains Rail Trail Enhancement Project for $8.5 million and the Rutherglen Silo Arts Project for $11.5 million have been prepared, submitted and will be managed by Tourism Northeast. Requests to Council and Tourism Northeast for copies of the grant applications have been refused, and members of the Shire community have no information as to the future expenses that will be imposed on them. The question, why has Council continued to side with Tourism Northeast and refused the information requested? And why is this information not being released? CEO.
So the simple answer to that question is that, Mayor Price, is that the applications aren't being made by Council, they're being made by Tourism Northeast, and they are a separate agency to us. So it's not really appropriate for us to release documents that aren't ours to release. They're another agency. So these requests in the past have been referred to T&E for them to decide which documents they can or can't release.
Thank you, CEO. That brings us to the conclusion of open forum. There are no further questions. We'll move now to community and council achievements. Councillor Croucher, you'd like to note an achievement?
Thank you, Mayor. At the recent Cricket Victoria's Community Awards held at the Cricket Vic headquarters, Junction Oval, St Kilda, the Kewal Cricket Club was named Community Club of the Year 23-24. This is quite a prestigious award that is not handed out easily and now puts the Kewal Cricket Club in the running for National Community Cricket Club of the Year. Part of the criteria for this award is that the club must actively create a welcoming environment and seek to create sustainable participation and growth through good governance, volunteer support and inclusive on-field programs. The nomination focused upon resilience, growth, inclusion, mental health and well-being, good governance and club values which are actively displayed and embedded across the club. The Kewal Club is well aware that the opening of their new club rooms last year was the jewel in their crown and is a definite part of the growth and ability to continually attract both state and national cricket carnivals to their club. This season alone, the club has hosted matches in the National Under-19s Country Championships, New South Wales Over 50s Championships and Over 75s Championships, and Cricket Albury Wodonga Junior Country Week and Senior Finals and Grand Finals. Congratulations, Kewal Cricket Club, on your award and all the best when being considered for the National Community Cricket Club of the Year.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney, you were going to raise a community or council achievement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The crime statistics for 2023 were recently published. All local government areas in North East Victoria had an increase in their crime rate, except for Indigo Shire, which had a decrease, the only shire in North East Victoria. I just think it's a tribute to the police officers working in Indigo Shire, and I'd just like to thank them for their efforts.
And Councillor Shepherd, you wish to raise a community or council achievement?
I do. I'd just like to congratulate the Yakandanda community on a very successful Yakandanda Folk Festival on the weekend, sold out event, and nearly the whole of Yakandanda in some way volunteers to create a very community-minded event. The weather was amazing. It's a sustainable festival where the dish pig came back into the Shire for a short time. So just wanted to say congratulations on such a great, another great festival, and thank them. And I think I was desperately looking in my phone, but there was also a Beechworth music event on this weekend, which I didn't get to, but was meant to be a very successful event too. Beechworth Country Hop, yeah, and a very family-oriented, great music event as well. So both things on, and we were able to sustain both of them. So that's a big deal that visitors could choose.
Thank you, Councillor. If there are no more community and council achievements, we'll move now to item 7, which is condolences. Do any councillors have a condolence for the meeting tonight? No? Move now to item 8, which is confirmation of minutes from previous meetings. The recommendation is that 1, the minutes of the council meeting held on the 27th of February as 2024 as published on council's website be confirmed. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved by Councillor Gold, seconded by Councillor Tysell. Does anyone have any comments? Councillor Shepherd?
I note that one of the things that was raised was around the men's shed in Kiwa Tangam. We had lots of people attend and ask lots of questions. So I'm interested in, if not now, later on, a discussion about where that's up to.
Thank you. If there are any other comments or questions about the minutes, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 9 is business arising from previous minutes, and there are no reports. Item 10 is petitions, and item 10.1 is a petition titled Chiltern Swimming Pool Opening Hours. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council resolves to note the petition. Do I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Shepherd, seconded Councillor Gold. Councillor Shepherd?
It's great when we receive petitions. We're under we understand very quickly what people's feelings are. So it was great to get this and hear that the Chiltern community would like us to extend the hours. But as in this report here, that will be noted. And as we are looking to have a new manager of the pools at the end of this season, 2024, that definitely will be taken into account in the pools report, and it will certainly be something that the hours and the opening hours of all the pools will be discussed with whoever takes on the next 3-year lease, whether it be Belgravia or whoever. So thank you for that input, and it will certainly be noted, and it will be discussed.
Councillor Gold, would you like to speak as seconder? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd, would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11 is planning and corporate services, and item 11.1 is the 2023-24 Q2 financial forecast. Before I read out the recommendation, I'd like to ask Director of Planning and Corporate Services, Greg Pinkerton, to make a comment.
Yes, thank you. Councillors, since the agenda was published, we've discovered that some of the figures in the Q2 capital works attachment didn't calculate through to the total row. Therefore, I'd like to table a new version of the Q2 capital works monitor. This has been emailed to councillors today. There's some hard copies that have been handed out, and it will be included in the meeting minutes. The key change in this is just to more accurately reflect the proposed carry forward amounts for 24-25. I will note that this does not add increased expense to council. It doesn't save us or cost us money. It's simply a timing variation about what will be done in this financial year and what will be carried forward. And the bottom line is that from the one that was published in the agenda to the one that I'm tabling tonight, it changes from 11.392 mil to 11.590 mil. So thank you. Yes, and the recommended resolution in the council report does talk about, it does reference the attached capital works monitor, and so therefore I would ask that resolution refer to the tabled capital works monitor. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. So councillors, I'll now read from the updated recommendation that we've all been provided. So this item is for decision, and the recommendation is that Council 1 adopts the Q2 full year forecast figures for both operating, in brackets, as shown in the operating statement below, and capital, as shown in the tabled capital works monitor, and 2, directs the CEO to report against these forecast figures for the remainder of the financial year. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Tyson. Councillor Gaffney?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When you first look at this document, it looks a bit scary because the year-to-date variance is $4.775 million. The reason for this is that the federal assistance grants were received in the last financial year and not in this, so the money can't be included in this document. The other thing that I'd like to point out is under quarries. It shows that the Q2 forecast is 24,000. The budget amount budgeted for was 80,000, therefore it's down 70%. This is because the council uses the quarry to get gravel for the road base, and council then pays the quarry, which the council owns, for those things. And these matters, it's not a large amount of money, but it will be rectified by the next financial statement.
Councillor Tyson would like to speak as seconder.
Yeah, I note that there's been significant expenditure on some of our community structures, and it's, most of these are going to come to fruition over the next 6 months. We've had additional funding for the Chiltern Athenaeum, Barmutha Park, and a couple of other structures in the area, and this has all been costed and should be.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd.
I think it's worth noting that we've had a lot of trouble with resources that support our capital works delivery. So often the effects of this are felt more so in the building sector, but we've also been impacted and we've experienced fewer contractor pricing works, often getting zero or limited tender responses when advertising works. And this, together with increased labour and material costs and extended delivery timeframes, is impacting on the delivery of projects to the community. So I think we're doing a great job in terms of we're getting lots of funding, lots of grants. We're able to get things done, except we are being limited. So I feel for the infrastructure department that are working hard at trying to get these projects delivered with fewer contractors.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn.
Yes, we've obviously got quite a few problems with reforecasting these projects that we've got going. Of particular interest to the people of Rutherglen is the Memorial Hall and the re-roofing of that building. And it's noted here that the reforecast is due to challenges with having suitable project delivery resources. It was assessed that a delay in the works would not significantly impact the integrity of the Memorial Hall. It's so that and several other programs have had the money moved out of the budget. And yeah, so the money's there and we just have to wait to get the right people to put in quotes for the business, and then hopefully we'll get underway. And particularly with the Memorial Town Hall, they're having a very significant anniversary next year, so hopefully that work will be able to carry it out in time for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Gaffney. Would you like to sum up? No? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.2 is the finance report for February 2024. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council accepts the year-to-date February finance report, noting the progress against Council's Q2 forecast. Can I have somebody to move that motion? Moved, Councillor Croucher. Seconded, Councillor Gold. Councillor Croucher.
A favourable position to the budget forecast as a result of the first 8 months for the 23-24 financial year is definitely a plus for the Shire, and therefore I'm pleased to accept the February finance report noting the progress against Council's Q2 forecast.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak as seconder?
Thank you. I think similarly, the difficulties that council has faced in reining in costs, unexpected additional costs, but also some of the financial management in terms of saving ourselves interest and securing grants is all a positive. And I also commend the council on the work and the reporting that we receive.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher, would you like to sum up as mover? No? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We'll now move to item 11.3, which is planning permit application PP 23.
Madam Mayor, I would like to move an alternate motion to the one that's in the agenda, please.
Okay, go ahead with your alternate motion, Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The motion is that council...
Sorry, can I just say, go ahead with your motion. This is not now an alternate motion. You'll be putting the motion.
Thank you. That council issues a notice of decision to approve planning application PP 230127, Lake Sambell on Lake Kerford Road, Beechworth, for buildings and works and use of the land for a floating sauna in the public park and recreation zone and heritage overlay, subject to the following conditions. There's 2, almost 3 pages of conditions. I don't intend to read them all out, but I'll certainly read the headings and parts that have changed from this original document. This document was prepared by the planning department. It doesn't mean that it's a recommendation from them, but it's certainly a motion from me. The plans required prior to the commencement of works, plans must be approved and endorsed by the responsible authority. The plans must be drawn to scale, submitted in electronic format, and show the following: a revised material schedule, the proposed location, pick-up and drop-off area, the proposed location of the staff car park, to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. Endorsed plans at all times. What the permit allows must be carried out in accordance with the requirements of any plans or documents approved under this permit. License agreement. Prior to the commencement of construction, the applicant must enter into a license agreement with the responsible authority for the occupation and use of the public space. The license agreement must include conditions for the use of the site, maintenance and replacement responsibilities, operational and complaint responsibilities, and an annual fee charge. Prior to license agreement approval, an advertised process must be undertaken informing of the council's intention to enter into a license on the terms and conditions negotiated. Final approval is granted by council with the consent of DECA. The hours of operation haven't changed. The number of patients, which is no more than 5 patients, may use the sauna at any one time. Delivery times haven't changed. The amenity of the area must not be detrimentally affected by the use or development through any of the following: the transport of materials, the appearance of any buildings, the emission of noise, artificial light, vibration, smell, fumes, smoke, vapour, steam, soot, ash, wastewater, and the presence of vermin to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. The subject land must be kept neat and tidy. All goods, refuse and packaging material associated with the development must be stored within the premises at all times, unless the responsible authority has approved in writing alternative arrangements. All lighting used to externally illuminate buildings and work shall be fitted with cut-off luminaries. Materials, it goes on about the roof and cladding. The colours must be approved by the responsible authority. Goulburn Murray Water, all construction and ongoing activities must be in accordance with the EPA. Publication 1834, Construction, Building and Demolition Guide. There must be no discharge of any form of wastewater from the floating saunas into Lake Sambal. Any wastewaters must be removed from the facility and disposed of appropriately to an approved waste disposal facility. Water taken from Lake Sambal may require a take and use licence. Environmental health, all cleaning activities associated with the operation of the sauna must not impact the water quality. And it goes on about engineering. There has been a change regarding the expiry of this licence. And section 19 reads, this permit will expire if one of the following circumstances applies. And then it goes on about the building start and finish. But the important section is 19F, which says that the permit will expire within 10 years of the date of the permit.
Okay,
That's the motion, Madam Mayor.
so to be really clear about that motion, that's you've still left some words out of that because it is a really lengthy motion. So the entire motion will be captured. Councillors, can I just confirm that we've all received that motion? If anyone hasn't, they can let us know, but that motion has been circulated. We each have a copy of it, have read and understood it. And so I will just confirm now for the process that the motion that Councillor Gaffney has just moved is now the motion that is on the table that we will debate. So I will ask someone to second that motion. seconded by councillor Tyson. Councillor Gaffney, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to say that I find the conditions are strenuous and onerous, and council makes no apologies for that. Just one thing, that this is not a permanent structure. It's not a house. The sauna is not powered. It is securely anchored, however, can be moved around if necessary. The permit has gone to the referral authorities. The Department of Health, no objections. North East Catchment Management Authority, no objections. North East Water, no objections. Goulburn Murray Water, no objections. Infrastructure, no objections. Economic Development, no objections. There is a letter from Tourism North East regarding this sauna, this floating sauna, and I was just wondering, I'd like to table the document, and I'd just like to read some parts of it. It goes for a full page, which I won't read. I'll just read a couple of them. Time present. It's written by the CEO of Tourism North East, Bess Nolan Cook. It's addressed to Indigo Shire Council. To whom it may concern, it is with great pleasure that I write this letter in support of Still Water Sauna's floating sauna project on Lake Sambal, Beechworth. Still Water Sauna's floating sauna concept for Lake Sambal is an exciting proposition in addition to Beechworth's tourism product offering. Not only does the proposal align with the Experience Victoria 2033 strategic plan, the project also supports the High Country's destination management plan by activating one of the region's more popular waterways. This project is a wonderful example of how private sector activation can work with our natural environment, support community wellbeing, and drive a positive economic structure. Should there be any other information required, to contact the CEO. Just a little bit of history is, originally this site was the Rocky Mountain Tunnel Mining Company owned. It was an open cut sluicing operation during the mid 1800s and early 1900s. In the 1920s, an area was created which was just a hole in the ground into a recreational lake and reserves for the residents and visitors of Beechworth.
Thank you, councillor Gaffney. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge that the lake does have a master plan, and that in 2015, businesses like this and concepts like this weren't around. So it's very difficult for our plans to deal with futures that we're uncertain and technologies that aren't available. We also had some very thought-provoking concepts put up by this council in regards to the Rutherglen Play Space and the Silo Arts in Rutherglen. They also had some objections to them, but by working with the community, this council was able to overcome them and still get the plans up and potentially have the funding for them down the track. It would be great to see another innovative experience to Beechworth that would help with the potential of the heritage listing that we have in front of us at the moment, and the significant increase in tourist numbers that will be coming to this area, and this would enhance that experience. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Tyson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd.
Can I just foreshadow that if this lapses, that the original recommendation be back on the table?
Thank you, councillor Shepherd.
Yep.
Did you also want to speak to the motion?
Yes. My concerns are, firstly, I think I was excited when I saw this. It's a great idea. I've looked at the one in Derby or Derby, however you say it, and it looks fantastic. And I think it would go very well in Beechworth. And then on the other hand, as a councillor, so that's me using a sauna, which I'd be straight there. As a councillor, I'm just very aware that we have a master plan that the community have had feedback into, and they have said, I know it's 2015, but they've said they're not after commercial ownership on that lake, that they want things like paddle boats or a play area. They don't want a commercial activation in that space. When we did the caravan park strategy, we had over 100 community members saying, we've had a lot to do with Lake Sample and we don't want to be able to see that whatever you're going to put there, you'll have to move that back. We don't want that, your play equipment that you're talking about putting in the water. They were very strong about what they didn't want. And I got the real feeling that the community own Lake Sample and they've put a lot of work and energy into it. And for us to then commercialize a section of that without their feedback, I would feel concern around that space, even though I think it's a great project. The other thing that's a problem for me is the fact that there's no amenities attached to this sauna. So there's no toilet or shower. So people would have to use a public amenity further down, which is, it's considerable if you're going down in your dressing gown. And I also have concerns around that it's a fire. I know that it's the smoke that will be generated for in summer when till 9 p.m. it's going to be going. So there'll be smoke in that sort of valley. And in winter also. I'm just wondering in the near future, I'm imagining that there might be even some discussion around whether we need better emissions from any fire that happens in a township. So they're my reservations around what looks like an amazing business, but whether it fits in that space.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gold.
Thank you. I think similarly, when I first heard about this project, I was really excited. I think it's a great proposition for our community and our visitors. It's a unique experience. In principle, it would leverage a natural asset, provide social and economic benefit, and align with many of Council's overarching strategies. I do, however, have concerns, and I would have preferred these concerns be resolved prior to any go-ahead were that to happen. The concerns that I have are, one, the scale and the location of the building is in a highly visible and a high-use location on a comparatively small lake. I would have preferred, and I would still prefer, an alternative site to be found that both had less visibility, that didn't impede the views across the lake, as it will do, and did not take space that is currently used very actively by our public and our visitors, so that people that are currently have free access to that area of public space will now find that it is cordoned off as a commercial enterprise. And I don't believe that that is in the interests of our community to have an either-or type response to the lake. I think, again, the master planning that has been done, no one had the concept of this sort of economic commercial development. I'm not against it per se, but I do think it's inherent on such a step forward to be part of a larger community consultation. We have had significant objectors. Some of those, I believe, have been addressed in the proposal for this development. Some have not. And I don't think that we've as yet really tapped into what the community feel about the commercialisation of Lake Sample, and be that on water or the surrounds. I am also concerned about the distance to the public toilets, the lack of water connection and parking. I do understand there are solutions to these, and I think it's fabulous that we can work with any applicant to find solutions to problems. And I would hope that we take that same attitude with some of these other issues. I am aware that the Heritage Advisor has advised against this development in its current form, and notwithstanding changes to the colours, have not addressed all the issues that the Heritage Advisor has put forward. And I think we ignore heritage advice at our peril. It's a strong component of what our community believe and advocate for. I'm also really concerned that we haven't addressed some of the implications to council's liability. If the site were closed for, in example, infrastructure works for the drains, then we don't know what our liability is, and that can leave us open to future costs.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn.
I believe that we need more and deeper consideration of this whole issue. This is a very, very important park and recreation area. And I believe we need to protect the natural environment in which so many people enjoy. Also, I believe that water, having grown up in the driest state, in the driest country, I'm very aware of water issues, and the water in that lake is a very valuable resource. Should our climate continue to change, as it's with very strong indications it will, we will possibly get to a stage where we might need that water for public consumption, if there's a drought, etc. And also in a fire situation. If Elvis had to call in and collect some water, how would that be possible with this structure in the way? And also, I don't believe that tourist offerings such as this, be it exciting and interesting and has a great deal of appeal, I don't think it should trump other offerings that protect our natural environment.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'd just like to make a few comments. This is a really difficult decision. I think that I would like for us to have an up-to-date Lake Sambourne master plan. That's not the case, and that will never be the case, that we can be so proactive with all of our master planning as we manage really tight budgets. And so we look at the one that we've currently got, we gauge community expectation and acceptance of something like this, and then we also have to match it up with the planning advice, the heritage advice. As I say, I find this to be quite a difficult decision because I really like the idea of it, but I also don't want to take away from one of the most beautiful public spaces within Beechworth. I need to know that if we were to add a commercial space onto that lake, that it would contribute something to the space, not take away from it. So at this point in time, I still continue to consider my decision tonight, but those are the things that I'm weighing up. I'll go back to Councillor Gaffney to sum up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I really like to think that Indigo Shire Council is visionary, looks to the future, looks for change that's good for the community, good for the town, good for Indigo Shire. This is something absolutely unique. It's the only floating sauna on mainland Australia. People in Beechworth are excited about it. I'm not sure who the other councillors have been talking to, but particularly the younger people just think that the opportunity, all of the bike riding groups think it's a wonderful idea and they want to be part of it. It's been mentioned about the 2015 master plan and that this wasn't on it. It wasn't even dreamt of back then. There was no pontoon in part of that master plan, but there's been a pontoon there 7 days a week, 365 days a year and nobody, to my knowledge, complains about it. The majority of the Beechworth community are in support of this project. I was a bit surprised to hear that the smoke from the sauna may have a bad effect on the community. There are houses on both sides of the lake, and everyone, or almost every one of those, has a chimney, and during the winter there's smoke coming out of them. So I don't know why one extra chimney would make that much difference. It's also spoken about the size of the lake. It's 27.198 hectares. It's a really big lake. In times of firefighting, planes and helicopters go on to the lake to refill with water to fight fires. That won't change. This is a very tiny part of the lake. So in summing up, I think that this council should seek to be bold, not scared.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. For clarity, before I put the motion to a vote, this is a motion for approval. A councillor has foreshadowed that if this motion were to lapse, that we would return to the original recommendation, which is for refusal. But the motion that I'm going to ask you to vote on in a moment is a motion for approval with all of the conditions as we've had outlined. So I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? It's carried. Do I need to get all of the names? So I'll go around again. All those in favour, Councillor Tyson, Croucher, Gaffney, Price. Those against, Councillor Shepherd, Gold and Horn. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors.
Just to clarify, because this will become our legal document, that the recommendation referred to by the council, I believe, was that hard copy which I have here. It has a heading on it, version 3, today's date and time of 5:15 p.m. because there was a couple of versions floating around. So that's the version we consider to be adopted, and that will become the planning permit conditions in its entirety.
And that's the document that I referred to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. So we will now move on to item 6, which is community and economic development, and item 12.1, which is the Enabling Tourism Fund projects Indigo Gold Trail 2.0 and Rutherglen Wine Experience Centre. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council, that subject to confirmation by the CEO before the lodgement date, that funding is available in the draft 2024-25 budget. Council 1 endorses applications for the following projects to the Victorian Government Department of Jobs, Skills, Industry and Regions Enabling Tourism Fund 2024. Indigo Gold Trail 2.0, Rutherglen Wine Experience Centre to be submitted by the winemakers of Rutherglen, and 2 notes that pending successful application outcomes or outcome, council's contribution in future budget for 2024-25 will be $70,000 for the Indigo Gold Trail 2.0 project and $25,000 contribution to the Rutherglen Wine Experience Centre project, which is an equal contribution from winemakers of Rutherglen. Before I ask someone to move that motion, I'd just like to note that Councillor Gold has left the meeting. I will now ask somebody to move that motion. Moved by Councillor Tyson, seconded by Councillor Croucher. Councillor Tyson.
Another great example of the Indigo Shire trying to upgrade our infrastructure. We're once again applying for grants, one for the revamp the Indigo Gold Trail, and another one to get some design concepts for the Rutherglen Wine Experience. Both are very valuable to our communities, and the upgrades are valuably needed. I'd also like to acknowledge that with the Rutherglen Wine Experience, this is only for a concept design and doesn't go any further than that. The recommendations from that will come back to this council. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Tyson. Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yeah, I'd just like to endorse what councillor Title has said, but I'd like to mention the Indigo Gold Trail in particular. There's 40 locations across the Shire. We've even got one in Sandy Creek, which is in my area, and indeed celebrates the discovery of such a precious metal. The trail location's there, but unfortunately they're not in the best of condition. And this funding would enhance the sites, encouraging visitors to once again to our areas to explore our rich history in gold.
Thank you, councillor Croucher. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd.
I'm particularly excited about the Indigo Gold Trail because I think as a 19-year-old, when I first came up here, I went around that trail and it was fascinating. And I then went on to teach gold at Wodonga Technical School, and we also followed that trail. And that trail has been covered in grass, I think, since I'm getting pretty old now, and it's certainly not a viable trail anymore. But I remember at the time how exciting it was to be able to pace your way around Indigo Shire. So it'd be great if that was back and was revitalised and was on your phone, like, you know, so we weren't just following, like there's so many opportunities in that space. So well done. I think that'll be a great project.
Thank you, councillor Shepherd. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
Just very small, that's right, Mayor, is the Victorian Goldfields has a World Heritage listing, or it's trying to get one, and this would be an enormous advantage. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Gaffney. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to councillor Tyson. Would you like to sum up? I'll put the motion then. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12.2 is the Regional Community Sports Infrastructure Fund. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorses an application for the following project to Sport and Recreation Victoria's Regional Community Sports Infrastructure Fund, the Yakandanda Netball Club change rooms upgrade, and 2 notes that pending a successful application outcome, Council's financial contribution in future budgets will be $225,000 for the Yakandanda Netball Club change rooms upgrade. Could I have somebody to move that, please? Moved councillor Croucher, seconded councillor Shepherd. Councillor Croucher.
This is a one-off opportunity to gain funds to upgrade a facility badly in need of a helping hand. Yakandanda Football Netball Club are a well-respected club throughout the Talangata League, and the need for this upgrade cannot be understated.
Thank you, councillor Croucher. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak as seconder?
I just like to endorse that. I think at the moment they're in old toilet block. So I think it's certainly scored very high in our IAC scale of what should be funded. So that would be fantastic if we were able to upgrade the Yakandanda Netball Club's girls. Well, not only girls, there might be boys playing netball. Those facilities would be great.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'd just like to commend our staff for being able to bring us applications like this, because there are very limited pools for us to be able to apply for sport and recreation money at the moment. The amounts required for any facility upgrade are basically only a third of what every club would require to upgrade any reasonable facility. And so that the grants are not fit for purpose for what we require. And so it's really a great asset to Indigo Shire that we have this prioritisation tool and we're able to be nimble with it and respond with these projects when grants come up and are available. Because we've already done that work to make sure that we know which projects would fit with certain grant criteria, and we're already liaising with those community groups to make sure that they've got everything that is required at the ready. So I hope that we're successful, and yeah, just commend our staff for that. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to councillor Croucher. Would you like to sum up? No? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 13 is infrastructure services, and item 13.1 is expressions of interest for occupancy of Beechworth Platelayers Cottage and former Beechworth Railway Station. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 supports an expressions of interest being advertised for the occupancy of the Beechworth Platelayers Cottage in Harper Avenue and the former Beechworth Railway Station, each for a maximum term of 5 years. 2, notes that the preference is for community use and endorses the assessment criteria set out in the report for the expression of interest processes. And 3, notes that the decisions on the leases will be made under delegation by the CEO and directors. Do I have somebody to move that?
That's right,
motion?
Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to the recommendation.
So, Councillor Gaffney, we don't currently have a motion. So would you like to propose a motion?
I certainly would. That recommendation 1 and 2 remain.
Mhm.
And recommendation 3 be changed to the decision on the leases will come to council for decision.
So, Councillor Gaffney, can I suggest notes that decisions on the leases will be made by council as item number 3?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the motion with that change from what was the recommendation listed in the agenda. If all councillors are clear on that, Councillor Gaffney has moved that. Can I ask somebody to second that? Councillor Shepherd has seconded it. Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. These 2 buildings, one of them was completely derelict and it's just risen from the dead, and that's the Platelayers Cottage, the former Beechworth Railway Station. A lot of people, a lot of community interest have stayed there. There's been one who has been there for quite some time and has made major changes and improvements to that building. I'm glad that this is going out for community thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak as seconder?
I'd like to say that Platelayers Cottage, when I first came on council, was sitting in the budget there for $40,000 or something. And when we went and looked at it, we went, whoa, that's not going to go very far. And so the fence just stayed up around it. And I just would like to congratulate the Lions Club on just grabbing that opportunity to assist us really in making that a viable place. It was too historic to pull down, and it was going to be really expensive for us to renovate it, bring it. Well, as Councillor Gaffney said, it was a shell. So congratulations on the Lions Club, firstly, on an amazing job on gathering grants from people, on getting people to do the work. So firstly that, but secondly, it's great that we're able to offer these 2 buildings out for community leasing. And I think it's going to be great that this goes out to an expression of interest to the whole community to have an opportunity in either of those buildings. So, yep, I endorse this.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Horn.
Yeah, I had a guided tour through Platelayers Cottage about 2 weeks ago, and it's an excellent facility now, and especially for community use. And I certainly endorse the idea for the venue to go out for community expectation for expressions of interest. A wonderful facility now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Horn.
I'd like to endorse, I'd like to endorse the comments of my fellow councillors. It's a wonderful example of the community working with the Shire to improve the resources that we have available to us, and particularly to do this work on these very interesting and valuable assets to the community. So yeah, congratulations to everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Gaffney. Would you like to sum up? Nothing further. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 13.2 is the Rutherglen Caravan Park proposed lease. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorses its intention to negotiate a lease for the Rutherglen Caravan Park with the following terms. A 21-year lease term with a suitably experienced caravan park operator. B, the annual rental amount payable will be based on a percentage of the caravan park's annual turnover, the amount to be determined by a competitive EOI process. C, the lessee will be required to invest into developing the park in line with the adopted master plan. And D, council will similarly be required to commit to funding its share of upgrades required in the master plan. 2, notes that a public notice advising of the proposed lease arrangements will be placed and that submissions be received for a period of 14 days in accordance with council's community engagement policy. And 3, notes that a further report will be presented to council at a future meeting for a final decision in relation to the proposed lease. Do I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Tyson, seconded Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Tyson.
Yeah, this is the first of our 4 caravan parks, which is up for a lease renewal. I will acknowledge there that it speaks about the master plan that we have for our caravan parks, and it will be interesting to see how that gets implemented. And it'll be great to see a new person in the caravan park there, and hopefully a lot more tourists staying there.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak to the motion?
So this, did you say at 30th of June 2024, it's going to expire? So an expression of interest process to appoint a leasee has already happened. And this is community's opportunity really for 14 days, I think it is, to have feedback on whether they agree with this lease term. So, and then it will come back to us. So, yep. It's an interesting time with our caravan park master plan, as you said, the first one up the rank.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn.
Yes, this again is a very valuable resource that's available to not only local people and visiting family and friends, but there's a tradition of staying at the caravan park. Generations of families have enjoyed time there. So it'll be really interesting to see how we can develop it and involve the community in lasting enjoyment of this natural resource.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Tyson. Would you like to sum up?
Our caravan parks are part of a very important part of our community assets. Many of our friends and family get to stay at them, and many of our tourists as well. So it's a very, very valuable asset to communities, and it's very important through this process that we find people who want to invest in our communities.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 13.3 is the February Capital Works report. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council notes the February Capital Works report and year-to-date progress in the delivery of the Capital Works program. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Croucher, seconded Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Croucher.
It's great to see that the 23-24 Capital Works program is so well advanced. A number of the projects are nearing completion, with many now underway and making good progress. I note the Kigunya Hall upgrade in particular around my way is now well advanced, and the local community are thrilled with the result.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak as seconder?
Similarly, the Kigunya Hall was on the list in the budget, like it's been in the budget forever. So it's so nice to get this happening and be able to tick it off as having been done. So congratulations to the Infrastructure Department and to the Kigunya community for their perseverance. I also note that our urban drainage improvements have been occurring, which Beechworth and Rutherglen community members who were part of that drainage flood concerns would be happy to see those being done. And that the skate park was, the second round of the Northeast Skate Series was held in Rutherglen on the 16th of March, even before it was finished, which I thought was interesting. I also have a question, which from the previous report around the Capital Works, around that the Rutherglen Hall roof was being delayed. But I'm interested in asking, if I could, about what our attitude is to solar on when we're going to replace that roof. are we able to include solar in that, or what is the process around looking at whether it's suitable for solar? Because it's a large roof area that is asking for solar.
So I'll go to the Manager of Capital Works and Waste, Nathan Mullane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, Councillor, the project scope at the moment doesn't include solar installation for the replacement of the roof. What we will be doing as part of the work, they'll be undertaking out a check and any upgrades needed to make sure we can future-proof that roof facility. So replacement of battens and ceiling works that we may uncover when we take the roof off. A future application would need to be considered and made in relation to solar for the installation on that roof, but we'll make sure we do all the preparatory work to facilitate that in the future if we get there.
Thank you. Can I ask a second question of the CEO? So how do we include that in the process, that we look at any project that comes up around re-roofing or anything similar, that we naturally just look at sustainable development around that in terms of what we're going to be using in that space, whether we can put solar on it, whether it can be battery friendly, the fact that we've got so many strategies and policies around sustainability and the climate emergency. I think we need to ensure that that's just part of our process.
CEO?
The best way, Councillor, to embed that is through our asset management strategies. There's a separate strategy for each major class of asset. There is an asset management strategy for buildings. I don't know off the top of my head what it says about that right at this moment, but the next review opportunity of that strategy would be the appropriate place to include those types of considerations, so that it'll say something like every building that gets refurbished should take account of solar, some sort of statement like that. So if you're looking for a policy statement by council, that's the sort of place to have that sort of a statement in.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Croucher. Would you like to sum up? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14 is executive management and item 14.1 is the risk appetite statement. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council adopts the risk appetite statement. Can I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Tyson. Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Risk appetite is defined as the amount and type of risk that council is willing to take in relation to achieving objectives. It can also be described as an organisation's risk capacity or the maximum amount of risk it will accept after controls and other measures have been in place. Under the financial implications, the proposed risk appetite statement is intended to enable the community to understand the stance of council in relation to financial risks. It will also assist council staff when making decisions that have financial implications. This document went to the Audit and Risk Committee and they went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and they were very pleased with the document and suggested that council should own this document.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yeah, I'd just like to mention, it is a very simple document in terms of what it says. Council does have a responsibility to the community, and this basically outlines the amount of risk the council is going to uptake in the benefit of pursuing the community's needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd.
I'd just like to recognise that this risk management protocol has been a long journey that we've been working with staff on for probably the last 4 years, and it's all starting to come together very well. So congratulations on I think, great deliberation with us and also with the Audit Committee and in bringing back to us this risk statement.
I'd just like to echo that. I think the consistent feedback that we've had from the Audit and Risk Committee for a number of years now is the maturity that we're reaching in this space, and I think that's really important to reflect because it does really reflect the journey that we've been on to arrive at this position with this document and others. So that should give people confidence. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Gaffney. Would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.2 is the Privacy Policy Review 2024. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that that council endorses the draft privacy policy for public exhibition for a period of 30 days from the 27th of March to the 26th of April 2024. 2, if no submissions are received during the public exhibition period, the policy is adopted from the 27th of April 2024. And 3, if submissions are received during consultation, the policy is to be brought to a future council meeting for adoption. Could I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Tyson, seconded Councillor Horn. Councillor Tyson?
Yeah, another example of council liaising with the public and giving them the opportunity to comment. They should go through this and see some of the things there, how we use your data, what's the access and correction, are we open? Are we sensitive to the information and how do we use it? And I encourage the public to make submissions if they feel that this is not correct.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Horn, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I would strongly encourage all people to participate in this community gathering of information and actually have a really good read of it and have a think about it and make their comments. It's a very important document.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd?
I think this is the third iteration of this document and we're reviewing it very regularly, which is it yearly? Anyway, it's very regular that we're reviewing this, which I think just shows the community how important privacy is to this council, so that we're constantly updating anything that comes from any acts that needs to be updated and any clarification to make it easier for people to see. So I think this is a pretty important document and we're very aware that privacy needs to be handled well.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Tyson. Would you like to sum up? No? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.3 is advisory committee minutes. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council receives the attached unconfirmed meeting minutes for the following advisory committees: the Indigo Environment Advisory Committee and the Indigo Community Access Committee. Do I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Croucher, seconded by Councillor Tyson. Councillor Croucher?
Just very briefly, I'm on the Indigo Community Access Committee and a wonderful committee it is. It's got good representation from all over the Shire and I commend the group for the work that they're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yeah, I back Councillor Crouch's comments there and acknowledge the fact that we do have a lot of people that volunteer within our community to our advisory committee minutes and that councillors do actually read them and they are heard.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to you, Councillor Croucher. Would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.4 is informal meetings of councillors' records. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council accepts the attached informal meetings of councillors' records. Can I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Shepherd, seconded Councillor Tyson. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak? Councillor Tyson? If no other councillors would like to speak, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.5 is contracts awarded under Chief Executive Officer delegation for February 2024. The following contract was awarded by the CEO under delegation between the values of $250,000 and $500,000 for the month of February 2024. There is one contract that's listed there. It's for the construction of Rutherglen Loops Trail, Main Street West, Jacks Road for the Rutherglen Loops project, and the amount is $345,475. Item 15 is notices of motion, and there are none. Item 16 is councillors' reports. Would any councillor like to make a report to the meeting? No. Item 16.1 is the Mayor's Diary for February 2024. If there are any questions. Item 17 is the Decisions Register, which is for information. And item 18 is general business. Does anybody have any general business for the meeting? Councillor Horn?
Following the nasty truck accident that we had in Rutherglen the other week, I would like to acknowledge the wonderful response of both the emergency services and the community of Rutherglen. We were very, very pleased that there was no personal injury or worse. And the police were there within minutes, as were the SES and the CFA people. Even the tow truck was there, seemed to be there within minutes. And the level of support given to the businesses who were impacted by the loss of their electricity and their patronage over the next day was really nice to see. And it just proves what a very well connected and generous community we have, with a great community spirit. And I really appreciate and thank everybody for their efforts to make this unpleasant situation as good as it could be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Does anybody else have any general business? Councillor Shepherd.
Just that I raised from the minutes from the last meeting that we had a large group of people in here for the open forum around the Keyword Tangam men's shed. It's only been a month, so I'm not assuming that there's been a lot done, but I was just wondering if there has been any change in the circumstances.
Sorry, I cut you off. The Director of Community and Economic Development, Sally Rice.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Officers, including myself, have continued to meet regularly with the representatives of the Keyword Tangam Men's Shed, as well as the President of the Victorian Men's Shed Association. The project continues to be delivered on the current site at the Kiewa River Park according to the funding agreement, and the transition of the men's shed off that site is being progressed in line with the expiry of their current lease, which is the 1st of May. And we're working as hard as we can to find suitable alternative location for them to be able to move to and hopefully resume operations in a different location immediately, as well as looking to longer term solutions for them. So we're meeting and speaking on a very regular basis.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Director. Are there any other items for general business? If not, we're now going to move to a confidential section of the meeting to discuss the appointment of a new member to the Indigo Community Access Committee and the Indigo Environment Advisory Committee. So this matter is considered to be confidential under Section 3(1)(f) of the Local Government Act 2020, as it deals with personal information, being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs. So I'm going to ask for a motion. The recommendation is that I need a motion to go into confidential. So I have a motion that we move into confidential session, which is moved by Councillor Croucher and seconded by Councillor Gaffney. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I'll wait for confirmation that we are in confidential. Thank you for your patience. If you've stayed with us to this point, we were just managing some technology so that we could continue to include Councillor Horn, even by Zoom in the confidential session. We were able to do that. We've resolved those two matters. I would now like to declare the meeting closed at 7:50 p.m. with the next scheduled council meeting on Tuesday, the 23rd of April, 2024 at